FPL Physio here. This will be my final thoughts before this game week. Thank you for subscribing. I just hit 1K subscribers yesterday. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And this is my final thoughts before this game week. So this is my team as it stands now. Um, I think the team is overall solid. I'm contemplating selling Ismail Sarr and Enzo, but um, I've kind of changed plans. So in my last video, I felt pretty confident selling Enzo, and I think I might just keep him. So let's just dive right into it, so I can explain why. So these are the four teams that I've always been looking at, and I think you should also be looking at for this game week and for the coming game weeks as well. It's Liverpool, Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham. As I talked about in my last video, I think there's reasons to look at especially Liverpool and Brentford if you've already used your wildcard, um, because they have great fixtures past the blank game week 31, um, and then Bournemouth and Fulham with very decent fixtures until game week 32. So if you're still in doubt on who to buy, definitely look into these four teams here, and then I would definitely look into these players here. So all of these four players have been talked about a lot in the FPL community on X and also on YouTube. Harry Wilson is probably the most talked about. So these are the stats from game week 22 to 27, and Harry Wilson with 2.04 expected goal involvement. Dango with 3.08. Schade with 1.21. You can't really use that because he's been out with a 3-match ban. And Rayan also only played a few games with 1.61. So I think the talk about Wilson might be overhyped, because Wilson, um, it's okay underlying stats, but it's nothing crazy. He's massively owned by more than I think more than 21% of all managers own him. But his underlying stats it's okay. It's nothing crazy. I think what's doing it is the fixtures, and they have 3 out of the next 4 games at home, and of course that has something to say. I mean, of course that also played a big part in my final decision. But I was also looking at Dango quite a lot, and like his underlying stats is better. Um, he's a differential, because it's not a lot of the managers who already own Wilson that will also buy Dango. Because I think most teams own Bruno, Rodgers, Rice, and maybe a dead spot or something. So I don't think a lot of managers will own both Wilson and Dango, or Wilson and Schade, or Wilson and Rayan. So I think you can also kind of differentiate against other managers by not going the Wilson way. Um, so yeah, if we look at the underlying stats of these players, um, just a quick glance, then Dango is the most um, interesting one. And yeah, so the players that the managers are contemplating transferring out and then buying Wilson is Ismail Sarr or Enzo or Rice, and a few other players, of course, as well. But compare Wilson's stats to these players. I mean, what's the reason to sell any of these players? That would only be the fixture run. That's the only reason. Because Wilson, okay underlying stats, but compare his stats to these players here, and then I know that these stats at least takes into or shows that Enzo has played more games and so forth. But I think Enzo's okay. No, sorry, Wilson's okay underlying stats with his great fixture run and a penalty share that people are talking about. I'm not so sure about that penalty share because um, if Raul Jimenez get subbed off, then Rodrigo Munoz will probably be subbed in, and who knows, he might be on penalties. So we don't really know about that penalty share, I think. But this was just to show you that these are one of the transfers strategies that I don't like. When you kind of, you're transferring out a player um, that is doing, kind of similar to the player you're transferring in. In this case, you're just transferring out a player with better stats than the player you're transferring in. And we've seen this is a great argument um, that the league is so close this year. It's one of the closest leagues seasons in a long time, meaning that we can only have Burnley right now, who's in a poor state. The rest is just it can end up with whatever result. An example is I bought an Ismail Assar for these two last games with amazing fixtures. It ended up with 4 points, I think. Amazing, right? The same could easily happen with Wilson. And will you waste a transfer buying Wilson instead of Enzo, Rice, or Sarr? I don't know. But there is, of course, also another argument, which is that players like Rice and Sarr, they are blanking in 31. So in that sense, it could make sense. Then let's compare it to Dango, for example. Dango with a lot better stats, a lot better expected goal involvement, and I think just to continue on that last part with players blanking, I think Ismail Assar and Rice here does make more sense to transfer out than, for example, Enzo. I see a lot of managers asking me, should I do Enzo to Wilson? 24 or 48 hours ago, I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. But times change fast. So Ismail Assar and Rice blank in 31. And I think even though you could easily just keep them, you could easily just keep Ismail Assar and Rice because you don't really, it's not crystal clear transfers. That's what I'm saying. This, like, the fixtures look great. The underlying stats look also great on some of the players you are contemplating buying, but it's not a crystal clear transfer. It's not like, I don't know. It's not like you're buying in a player that would potentially be a captain, right? So you're kind of transferring, 1-to-1. Like it's not really an upgrade to a team, but it feels like it, right? Because of the fixtures. And I think we need to look past that. We need to remove the subjective analysis of it and kind of look as objective as possible. And by doing that, I've been looking at that Ismail Assar, I'm just going back again, Ismail Assar is blanking, which is probably the reason why I'm probably going that route of selling him. And I'm probably going to keep Enzo because he do have a bad game week this game week, but then he's playing Newcastle, I think it is. And on paper it looks bad, but take a look at Newcastle's expected goals conceded. That's horrible. and look at Enzo stats. Like, why would you sell him? And just just to look at these players, these four players, fixtures. It's it's also Dango and Schade that's kind of the most interesting, right? Because I know a lot of you guys have already used your wildcard. Then it's definitely uh, Dango and Schade that looks more interesting. And I mean, Wilson could easily blank against Tottenham. West Ham is looking far better, like way better than before New Year. Forest away, it's a new manager. Um, it's like it's too soon to say anything. And then we have the brilliant transfer, the brilliant fixture in game week 31. My point is, like, are these players really such good buys, or is it just because it looks good on fixtures? Because none of these players is like a crystal clear transfer in. None of them. Um, so I'm mainly transferring out Ismail Assar. I was so close to keeping him, but currently I'm on this plan here. Ismail Assar out due to him blanking in 31. That's like the main argument. And in with Dango. I think it's best underlying stats. Um, you do have great long-term fixes as well in case of anything unexpected happens. That City doesn't blank in 31. I don't know why that would mean anything right now, but stuff can happen, and then I would like to have players with a more strong long-term fixtures like Dango. Um, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think you should really think about, okay, is it a crystal clear transfer, or am I just transferring in the player because it looks so good, right? Looks so good with 3 home games out of 4. Um, okay underlying stats, and he's being hyped. Wilson is being hyped more than you know Jesus Christ coming back. But just take a look at stats on Enzo, for example. It's so hard to sell him. It's so hard to sell him. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. This is my plan for now. Um, if I'll change it, I'll let people know on X. That's where I keep. That's where I post every day, constantly. Too much, way too much. Um, so I'll post there. But currently, this is the plan. Ismail Assar out, Dango in, 4 free transfers left. That would give me 5 for next week again. And the lineup would be something like Raya, Gabriel, Timber, Virgil. So 3 in the defense. I would play all of. No, sorry. I would play Mbemo, Dango, Bruno, Anderson. And currently, I would play these 3: Krupi, Thiago, Haaland. I might play Anderson instead of Krupi. And when I say might, very likely. But again, I'll let you know on X. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share this. Um, this season is crazy. I'm doing good. I'm extremely lucky. If you watched it to the end, please please write Squagaboo in the comments. Squagaboo. You gotta figure out how to spell it though. But thank you for watching, man. I'll try to answer all the comments, but it's impossible. But I'll try. If you have any questions, please tell me also how many free transfers you have and what chips you have left, because that helps a lot. Thank you for watching. See you in the comments.